Hello fun people! Today we're going to be exploring the full story of Elsa and Anna's parents, the dedicated, compassionate, and wise King Agnar and Queen Iduna. Prince Agnar of Arendelle, whose name roughly translates to honorable, good, and brave warrior, was born to King Rainierd and Queen Rita. Throughout his early life, he was watched over by his personal guard lieutenant Matthias, as he was raised for the royal duties that he would inevitably inherit. At the same time, his father was working to befriend and make peace with the tribe of Northuldrum people from the Enchanted Forest, even building a dam as an offering of goodwill. When the dam was finally completed, when Agnar was 14 years old, he accompanied his father on an expedition to the native kingdom in the north to celebrate the unity between Arendelle and the Northuldra tribe. While Agnar was captivated by the elemental spirits all around him in that forest, he felt the same way about a young Northuldra girl who he met on that same day. And I gotta say, that makes total sense. It would be pretty amazing to see magic come alive on the very same day that you met your future wife. This girl, who is named Iduna, which roughly translates to youthful and rejuvenation, had a deep connection with the natural world and was particularly close to the air spirit later named Gale, which may have came about because of her family's long history living in the Enchanted Forest.
This is from one of our oldest families. It was our mother's.
Iduna, much like Agnar, felt particularly close to the person she had just met, and while their relationship would continue to grow for decades after this first encounter, they had begun to fall in love. But
the Northuldra follow magic, which means we can never trust them. It makes them think they can defy the will of a king.
After King Rainierd struck down the Northuldra leader due to his fear of the Northuldra's ability to submit to his rule, a war erupted that resulted in the death of Rainierd and the spirits of the Enchanted Forest beginning to become violent, which resulted in Agnar passing out during the chaos and being saved by Iduna. And I really like this inclusion to the story. The idea that they were bonded together by this act of heroism, even though they were from different worlds, was really cool to see. Together they snuck out of the forest towards Arendelle, where Agnar would take on the duties that he was guaranteed at birth now that his father had died.
And that night, I came home king of Arendelle.
In the many years that followed, Agnar grew close with Iduna, even without the knowledge that she was the girl who had rescued him. And this is when we get to see a really interesting look at a completely different side of Iduna by seeing her younger self. Her bright, more honest self was really fun to see, even if she felt she had to hide who she was. Since those who had returned from the Enchanted Forest knew that the battle with the Northuldra had caused the death of their king, Iduna feared what would happen if she revealed the truth behind where she came from. But nevertheless, her and Agnar fell in love.
Iduna!
What are you reading, Your Majesty?
Some new Danish author.
Oh, and of course, I have to mention that the book Agnar is reading is The Little Mermaid, whose author Hans Christian Andersen wrote the story along with the Snow Queen, which Frozen is based on. The young Iduna was so playful, fun, and lighthearted, and that drew Agnar to her, while she was drawn to his strong and kind demeanor. This inevitably led their relationship to a point where they were ready to be married. Finally, King Agnar had chosen Iduna to become the Queen of Arendelle. But, of course, their adventure had only just begun. It's around the time of their marriage that Iduna finally feels she must confess the truth to Agnar about her true identity, which is important because the decisions she made as a child, her act of saving Agnar, would alter the fate of their family forever.
I love you.
I need to tell you about my past and where I'm from.
I'm listening.
Because of Iduna's act, the king and queen's first daughter, who they named Elsa, became the embodiment of the fifth spirit, allowing her to manipulate snow and ice, though they would be unaware of the origins of her magic for the entirety of their lives. A little later, 3 years to be exact, after the birth of Elsa, Agnar and Iduna also had their second daughter, who they named Anna. In the story of Frozen Heart, we learn while as an adult, Agnar was kind, powerful, and diligent, he also had a tendency to spoil his daughters, and had a difficult time legitimately punishing them when they misbehaved. He had a soft spot for his daughters because when they were born, they became his primary concern. At the same time, when he would lose his temper, Iduna was one of the best people to calm his nerves. Iduna matured greatly to become gentle, passive, emotional, and understanding, as she could always sense just what her children needed. She provided a calming effect and a supportive atmosphere to her family and was always ready to wrap up anyone who needed a loving embrace. For the first few years of their daughters' lives, they were a very happy family. Elsa and Anna would play together, Egnar would tell them stories, Iduna would sing to them, and they rang the Yule bell every holiday season. But suddenly, all of their lives became a little more complicated. Tensions began to rise when Elsa's magic almost killed Anna.
She's ice cold.
I know where we have to go.
It's so sad, especially knowing so much about Egnar and Iduna now, to see their entire family begin to spiral out of control because of this one event. From the wise magical trolls, Egnar and Iduna discover that Elsa's powers may be able to consume her if they are left unchecked. This made them feel like they had to take action.
No. We'll protect her. She can learn to control it, I'm sure.
While both of Elsa's parents accepted her and her powers, they feared what hardships may come her way because of them. And according to the reference book Frozen Unlocking Arendelle, they didn't want anyone to be harmed by her magic, especially Anna. Therefore, Egnar and Iduna decided to isolate their family, reduce the staff in their castle, and kept Elsa's powers hidden, believing that would give them the opportunity to guide Elsa to control her abilities. And this is where I know there's a lot of criticism over Egnar and Iduna's actions, but they were in a terribly difficult position. The king and queen had to balance protecting their people, continuing to attempt to keep their family together, and assisting Elsa on her journey with her ice magic. They were handling a lot of factors all at once, and none of them were able to be done because they were stretched completely thin. Of course, Elsa shouldn't have felt like she was a monster, and Anna shouldn't have felt completely alone. But in fact, their parents, I believe, were just trying to ensure that both of their daughters would be able to live long, safe, and eventually happy lives. Plus, these drastic measures were only meant to be temporary, but as Elsa's magic continued to grow, they would be left in place. For me, I just think they were doing their absolute best in the horrible situation, which I think you can really only ever expect of yourself. All you can do is do the next right thing. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about how these two parents handled Elsa and Anna down in the comments section. While Egnar was the one who communicated most directly with Elsa as she managed her magic, Iduna was the one who advocated for frequent breaks to calm Elsa. She was also the individual who secretly researched their daughter in hopes of finding answers as to what was going on with her. According to a deleted scene from Frozen 2, in a secret room adjacent to their library, she had hidden her Northuldra shawl, collected texts describing the magic within their world, and recorded a journal of everything they knew about Elsa's magic.
This isn't Father's handwriting. It's Mother's.
Iduna was acting discreetly to find ways to help her daughters and her people heal their world. And that's what inevitably brought her and her beloved husband to Ahtohallan. Knowing that Elsa's powers only continued to grow more dangerous, they became desperate to take action. So when they became convinced that Ahtohallan was the source of Elsa's powers, Egnar and Iduna set out on a 2-week expedition to cross the Black Sea and go to the magical river that existed far north of their kingdom. In a final effort to save their daughter, these lifelong friends left Arendelle. Unfortunately, along the way though, the waves became too high for the ship that they were on, which led to King Egnar and Queen Iduna being drowned by the violent storm that they encountered. Suddenly, they passed on, attempting to find answers on what was going on with their daughter. But their lives had not been for nothing. These two rulers, parents, and partners had forged a path that would allow Elsa to take control of her magic and fight to discover what her powers meant. They ensured that Anna would find her steady, guiding, and formidable ability to love. And they were able to show their world that Arendelle and the Northuldra tribe did have the capacity to be united. Egnar and Iduna Iduna would be remembered as the individuals who began the process of mending the rift that had grown amongst their people. They showed that love could bring together people and lands no matter how different they were. But let me know down below what your thoughts and theories are surrounding the legacy of Agnar and Iduna. Also make sure to subscribe and click the beautiful bell, and then click on another magical video in the description or on the screen. Finally, as always, thanks for watching and have a magical day.